to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David, and this is the charming Chantal.
Hi.
Alright, today we're going to have a look at fun and balanced duel decks. Now, all of these decks are 2-color, 60 cards, and meant to be a perfect balance against any of the other decks within this series.
Best of all cards used are under $1, so each deck will cost an average of $11.
That's right. Today we're going to be having a look at the Izzet League. It is a blue and red guild.
The guild mechanic is Overload. It allows instant or sorcery spells to be cast for a broader effect, but for increased cost.
Yeah, so the deck playstyle is going to be to burn your opponent's creatures with loads of instants and sorceries, and then swinging in with giant dragons. Let's have a look at the creature, shall we?
First we have our guild champion, Melek Izzet Paragon. For 6 mana you get a 2/4 legendary creature. You have to play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an instant or sorcery card, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery card from your library, copy it, you may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, it's actually a really handy card to have on the table because this deck actually has a lot more instants and sorceries than any of the other duel decks in this series, so you're going to have a better chance. On top of that, there's also a lot of cards that allow you to scry and search for those instants and sorceries and put them on top of the library. So you're going to get a lot of benefit out of dual casting those spells.
Next we have the Phantasmal Bear. For 1 mana you get a 2/2 Bear illusion. But when Phantasmal Bear becomes the target of a spell or an ability, you get to sacrifice it.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big downside. However, being able to cast this on turn 1, you have a 2/2 is going to be doing so much damage over the beginning course of the game, and people are going to have to use a spell usually to be able to get rid of it, so it's actually not such a big downside.
Next we have the Stream Hopper. For 1 mana you get a 1/1 Goblin. If you pay 1 mana, Stream Hopper gains flying until the end of turn.
Yeah, just a 1/1 for 1, but with the option of making it flying 1 turn where you just put some mana in it that you don't need anyway. You can do an extra point of damage. Not bad.
Next we have Blister Coyle Weird. For 1 mana you get a 1/1 weird creature. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, he gets +1/+1 until the end of turn, and you get to untap it.
Yeah, I might as well say, as long as you've got mana open and cards in your hand, Blister Coyle Weird is unblockable because people are not going to want to block this guy with the chance that you can pump it with some kind of instant, and on top of that it gets the +1/+1 and it gets untapped. People don't want to run the risk of losing their creatures that way.
Next we have the Augury Owl. For 2 mana you get a 1/1 flying bird. When he enters the battlefield you get the Scry Tree.
Yeah, I love this little guy. He's a 1/1 flyer for only 2 mana. On top of that, when he comes in, you get to look at the top 3 cards, put any of them at the bottom of the library, and put the rest at the top of the library in any order. Great card selection.
Next we have Frostburn Weird. For 2 mana you get a 1/4 creature. If you pay 1 mana, he gets +1/-1 until the end of turn.
Yeah, for 2 mana you get a huge butt with that 4 toughness. On top of that, you can also pump 3 mana into this guy, and then he's a 4/1. So if they don't have a decent blocker, you're going to be doing tons of damage.
Next we have the Goblin Electromancer. For 2 mana you get a 2/2 Goblin Wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 mana less to cast.
Yeah, in a deck full of instants and sorceries, it's great to be able to cast them for 1 colorless less.
Next we have the Nivix Guild Mage. For 2 mana you get a 2/2 Human Wizard. If you pay 3 mana, you can draw a card and then discard a card. If you pay 4 mana, you get to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control, and you may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, this card does everything you want from at the beginning of the game. You're going to be using it for some card selection. Later on in the game, you're going to cast cheap instants and sorceries, and then use the remaining mana to cast copies of those spells. So great utility.
Next we have the Nivix Cyclops. For 3 mana you get a 1/4 Cyclops with Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, he gets +3/+0 until end of turn and can attack his turn as though it didn't have Defender.
Yeah, great blocker, great defender. You can't even attack with it normally, but are you going to be pumping your creatures with instants and sorcery spells? Then you can also attack with this guy, and then he's a 4/4. That's going to be really tough to stop.
Next we have the Crackling Triton. For 3 mana you get a 2/3 Merfolk Wizard. If you pay 3 mana, you can sacrifice Crackling Triton and he will deal 2 damage to target creature or player.
Yeah, he's an okay guy, you know, a 2/3 for 3 mana, you know, nothing to get too excited about. But should your opponent have something which is very threatening, that has only 2 toughness, a very good utility creature, you say, you know what, I'll pay the 3 mana, I lose my Crackling Triton, but I can just blast that guy right off the map. Sweet.
Next we have the spell Hard Chimera. For 3 mana you get an X3 Chimera with flying and trample, and his power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, as we said, we're going to be casting a lot of instants and sorceries, so this guy's going to be really big, and the beauty of it is that he has trample, so if people try and block it with just a little 1/1 flyer, most of your damage is still going to get through.
Next we have Izzet Static Caster. For 3 mana you get a 0/3 human wizard with flash and haste. If you tap him, he deals 1 damage to target creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature.
Yeah, you're going to be wanting to cast this spell at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you can destroy pretty much any toughness 1 creature, and it's especially the bane against any tokens, because, well, you kill all the other remaining tokens as well.
Next we have the Guard Gomazoa. For 3 mana you get a 1/3 Defender Flying Jellyfish. Well, Flying Jellyfish is a bit weird, but
True.
It gets to prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to Guard Gomazoa.
Yeah, king of all blockers, can't be destroyed in combat, blocks ground units, blocks flyers, enough said.
Next is Seradip Sorcerer. For 3 mana you get a 1/1 human wizard. If you tap him, target creature will become a 0/2 until the end of turn.
Yeah, if you have this guy, people have a big problem attacking into you because they don't know which of their creatures you're going to turn into a 0/2 and hence will die in the attack. You can't do it to protect yourself by turning it into a 0/2, but other than that, everything else is fair game and people are going to fear this card.
Next we have the Torch Drake. For 4 mana we get a 2/2 Flying Drake. If you pay 2 mana, he gets Fire Breathing.
Yeah, so basically, okay, 2/2 flyer for 4, okay, not too bad. You can be doing decent amount of damage early on in the game. On top of that, late game is also handy, because if you're mana flooded, you got too much mana, you got somewhere you can pump it into, and then your Torch Drake does tons of damage.
Next we have the Phantasmal Dragon. For 4 mana you get a 5/5 Flying Dragon illusion. But when Phantasmal Dragon becomes the target of a spell or ability, you get to sacrifice it.
Yeah, same as the Phantasmal Bear. Downside is not so great. People do have to use their abilities, you have to use their spells to get rid of it, which normally would also have to do their best to get rid of a creature. On top of that, for 4 mana, it's a 5/5 flyer. That's so much power in the air so early in the game. If they can't handle this card quickly, they can't get rid of it, you're going to win the game.
Next we have the Flux Charger. For 4 mana you get a 1/5 wizard with, a weird. With flying, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may switch his power and toughness until the end of turn.
Yeah, great flying blocker. However, if you do have an instant sorcery, you can use it to make this guy into a great attacker, because then it flips around, he's a 5/1 attacking unit, nobody can block that and not die, pretty much.
Next we have Tibur and Lumia. For 4 mana you get a 3/3 human wizard. Whenever you play a blue spell, target creature gains flying until the end of turn, and whenever you play a red spell, Tibur and Lumia deal 1 damage to each creature without flying.
Yeah, pretty sweet. You're going to be doing damage to ground units. A lot of your units are flying anyway, so it doesn't even matter to you. Plus you can use the ones, if it's a blue spell, you can make the ones that don't have flying into flying. You can make Tibur and Lumia, you can make them flying when you're casting a blue spell, so it's great utility, let alone you can be casting multiple spells per turn.
Next we have Izzet Crone Arc. For 5 mana you get a 2/2 human wizard. When he comes into play, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, 2/2 is not too impressive as a body goes, especially for 5 mana, but the key is that you're able to return to your hand the most important instant or sorcery that is in your graveyard that you used before, and you get to use it again. Awesome.
Next we have our Iron Man. For 5 mana you get a 2/3 human wizard. For 1 blue mana and you tap it, you draw 2 cards. If you pay 1 red mana and you tap it, you get to discard a card.
Okay, for 1 red, you're going to tap it, discard a card. Then you're going to be doing damage to target creature equal to discarded cards mana cost.
Oh, right, okay.
So the idea behind this guy, because he's Iron Man, he's got so much cash and money, he can just, his first ability uses it, draw 2 cards, you're getting extra resources. And his second ability, he's got so many cool toys, he can use the red and tapping to deal damage to a creature with his cool Iron Man weaponry. I think that's exactly what the Wizards of the Coast was going for, and they succeeded. All joking aside, it's a really powerful card. The card draw is insane. For 1 blue, you're going to get 2 cards. That is craziness. On top of that, you know which cards you have in your hand. So for its second ability, you're going to be able to destroy a creature, whichever creature you want, pretty much, as long as you have the right cards in your hand.
Next we have the Hypersonic Dragon. For 5 mana you get a 4/4 dragon with flying and haste. You may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash.
Yeah, you have a few sorcery spells in this deck, so you're going to get some utility out of it. There's not a crazy amount, it's not built around this thing, but still having a 4/4 dragon with flying and haste, nothing to sniff at. It's going to be awesome.
The last one we have is Spellbound Dragon. For 5 mana you get a 3/5 flying dragon. Whenever he attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. He gets +X/+0 until the end of turn, where X is the discarded card's converted mana costs.
Yeah, this dragon is sweet. It has a huge butt. It can block any flyers. On top of that, when it goes in the offensive, just think about it. You've got a 6 or let's say a 5 mana converted mana cost spell in your hand. You say, I'm going to toss that, then it becomes a 8/5 on the attack. I mean, if that gets through, it's going to be game over real quick. Well, anyway, those are the great creatures that we have. Let's have a look at the enchantments. This deck has 3 enchantments.
The first one is Fennec Arc. For 3 mana, enchanted creature has first strike. When Fennec Arc comes into play, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player.
Yeah, this is actually a very handy enchantment, you think, because you can give a creature first strike. But that's actually secondary. Mostly just really nice because it comes in and it does 3 points of damage to target creature or player, so you get to remove something. And of course, making a dragon of yours first strike is not too shabby.
The second one is Flavorful Winds. For 2 mana, creatures you control with flying get +1/+1.
Yeah, there's a lot of flying creatures in this deck actually, so it gets great benefit from having this enchantment on the battlefield. Really nice.
The third one is Cloud of the Dominus. As long as it's for 1 mana, and as long as enchanted creature is blue, it gets +1/+1 and has Shroud. And as long as enchanted creature is red, it gets +1/+1 and has haste.
Yeah, this is the king of the enchantments in this deck. Suffice it to say, if you cast this on one of your multicolored dragons, you're going to be sitting pretty. Those are the enchantments. Let's have a look at the artifacts. This deck has 3 artifacts.
The first one is Izzet Stone. It will cost 3 mana to cast, and you can tap it to add a blue or a red mana to your mana pool. If you pay a blue and a red mana, and you tap it, you can sacrifice Izzet Stone to draw a card.
Yeah, very handy card. Mana fixes you, mana ramps you, and later on in the game, when you don't need that mana, you can just sack it and maybe go get something that's even better.
The second one is Izzet Rune. It will cost 3 mana to cast, and this one you can also tap to add blue or red mana to your mana pool. If you pay a blue and a red mana, you can turn Izzet Rune in a 2/1 artifact creature until the end of the turn. Whenever this creature deals combat damage, you may draw a card, but if you do, discard a card.
Yeah, very handy. Also mana fixes you, also mana ramps you for the same cost as the Clue Stone. However, in a pinch, you can turn it into a creature, do some damage. On top of that, it gives you some card selection because you draw and discard, which is exactly what you want to be doing this deck. You want to be sifting through your deck, getting the best spells.
The third one is Witch's Eye. It will cost 1 mana to cast and 1 mana to equip. Equipped creature has pay 1 colorless, tap it to scry 1.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were just talking about. You're going to be selecting cards and that scry 1, putting that on a creature that's not going to be a threat battle-wise anymore, is going to be able to do scry work for you. So really, really sweet. Well, those are the artifacts. Let's have a look at the instants and sorceries.
The first one is Izzet Charm. For 2 mana, choose 1. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2 mana, or deal 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards.
Yeah, this charm does exactly what this deck wants to do. It either deals damage to a creature to kill it, a small one, or it counters a non-creature spell, or it allows you to dig through your deck, which is exactly what you're going to be wanting to do to get to those really juicy spells. So it's really awesome.
The second one is Turn and Burn. It is a fuse card. You can cast the first half for 3 mana, and then target creature loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1 red weird until end of turn. You can cast the next half Burn for 2 mana. Burn deals 2 damage to target creature or player. You can cast them together for 5 mana.
Yeah, you got 5 mana, pretty much anything on the battlefield, no matter how big, it's gone. But the turn half can be used very nicely during combat as a combat trick, and the burn half can be used also during combat, but mostly just to kill a very small creature when your opponent's least expecting it.
The next one is Magma Jet. For 2 mana, Magma Jet deals 2 damage to target creature or player. You can scry 2.
Yeah, 2 damage may not seem like a lot, but your opponent's going to have a lot of 2 toughness creatures, especially the creatures with very nice benefits to them. So you're going to be frying those, and especially the scry 2 is going to be giving you the ability to get to the bottom of your deck to where your good stuff is.
The next one is Bolt of Keranos. For 3 mana, Bolt of Keranos deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and you can scry 1.
Yeah, it's kind of the same as Magma Jet. You're paying 1 red mana extra for it. You're doing an extra point of damage. You got 1 scry less. Pretty solid.
The next one is Street Spasm. For X and 1 red, Street Spasm deals X damage to target creature without flying you don't control. You can overload this one by paying 2X and 2 red.
Yeah, so this is the first time we see overload, which is the guild mechanic. Basically what it means is you can pay, let's say we put X, we put that as 2 mana. So for 3 mana we would be able to do damage of 3 to target creature without flying or opponent control, so that's 1 guy. But if we pay 2 times 2 mana and 2 red, so for 6 mana, then we overload it, and then we'd be able to do 2 points of damage to all the creatures that don't have flying or opponent controls. That is going to be huge for board wipes.
The next one is Weapon Search. For 1 mana, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. You can overload this one with paying 2 mana.
Yeah, for 1 red mana, leaving that open, people never know whether you're going to be able to pump your creature with 1 power, and giving it first strike makes blocking and attacking actually very scary for your opponent, so Weapon Search is great for that. On top of that, if you got a lot of smaller creatures, you can attack with all of them and then overload it for only 2 mana, and they all get pumped quite a bit, and on top of that makes it really awkward for your opponent to block.
Next one is Dino Charge. For 1 mana, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You can overload this one by paying 3 mana.
Yeah, essentially the same as the Weapon Surge, except we don't get the first strike, so you're not going to be able to trade as well. Well, actually you will be trading because you don't get to pump your toughness or have first strike in this case. But on top of that, you do get a little bit more power, so it might be the killing blow that you need to finish the game.
The next one is Essence Backlash. For 4 mana, counter target creature spell and deal damage equal to that spell's power to its controller.
Yeah, it's quite expensive for a counter spell. It's going to be costing 4 mana, so you're going to have to be saving this until you have quite a bit of mana left over. But being able to counter your opponent's big fatty, and then that creature's power dealing damage to their dice is going to be huge. It's going to make a great swing, because of course they don't get the creature, and on top of that they actually got damage that should be for you.
The next one is Blast of Genius. For 6 mana, choose target creature or player, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Blast of Genius deals damage equal to the discarded card's converted mana costs to that creature or player.
Yeah, so essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be drawing 3 cards, which is really nice, and you can select a card already even before you cast this spell, which has a high enough converted mana cost so that when you discard it you can destroy target creature, or that's the sufficient amount of damage you need to kill your opponent. So you might think, oh, it's very random, but actually you have a lot of control, and being able to draw those 3 cards and selecting the exact one you need to kill somebody or kill their creature is really, really powerful.
Last but not least, Dragon Shift. For 3 mana, until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a 4/4 blue and red dragon, loses all abilities and gains flying. You can overload this card by paying 7 mana, and this is my favorite card. I beat David's ass with this card. 4 tiny creatures become 4/4 dragons.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, especially because it's also instant speed. You can use it to either turn one of your creatures into an awesome blocker that people were not expecting, or late game when you only have a couple of puny 1/1s and people think they're sitting pretty, you just turn them all into 4/4 dragons and swing in for the win. And yeah, let me put it this way, on the receiving end of that, it's quite painful and humbling to die to all those transformed dragons. Well, those were the instants and sorceries. Let's have a look at the lands.
We divided the lands in 9 islands, 9 mountains, and 4 guild gates.
Yeah, it gives us a very even mana distribution. Nothing more to say about that. Let's go have a look at the conclusion.
In conclusion, this deck is a lot of fun. You get all these tricks up your sleeve to make your own creatures more dangerous to the opponent or to kill your opponent's creatures. You get lots of flyers and a few big dragons, and who doesn't love dragons?
I don't know anybody who doesn't love dragons. And on top of that, it's also really cool because your creatures may seem very small and very non-threatening. You know, you got a couple of illusions that are easily destroyed. You've got some high toughness but very low power creatures. But that is just an illusion for the opponent, because actually it's a very powerful deck, and with all your instants and sorceries you can remove exactly the elements that could be a threat, swing in with creatures whose power and toughness switch. People don't know what's happening, you're pumping them, you're getting the first strike. It is super awesome. On top of that, it's also pretty affordable, right?
All these cards together are $10.53.
Yeah.
You can check out the deck list below to look up the cards again.
Yeah, on top of that, I'd also like to ask you right now to subscribe, because if you subscribe, it lets us know that we're doing a good job. It allows us to make more kinds of Magic videos, more different kinds of Magic videos, just more of all the kind of stuff that you guys might enjoy. So please hit that subscribe button, and then we can keep on doing this. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
I'm Chantal.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.